We're here with two-time Super Bowl champion Leonard Marshall, former New York Giant, All-Pro, and also author of When the Cheering Stops. And Leonard, of course, it's been now almost 25 years since the Giants won the Super Bowl in 1986. Take us back then and take us back to the beginning, actually, the formation of that Giant team in 1983 when you arrived there in Bill Parcells' first year as New York Giants head coach.
Well, Michael, my rookie season with the Giants was quite a challenge and quite a test. What I recall from the moment that the Giants had set their sights on drafting a defensive lineman from LSU, or possibly drafting a defensive lineman from LSU, their biggest thing was, could we bring a guy in that can make an immediate impact, and would he be a good enough football player to replace Gary Jeter along our defensive line? They had been trying to sew up a player to really come in and play with Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson, someone very athletic, and that could pretty much be the prototype defensive lineman that they were looking for to play in their 3-4. I recall something really funny when I came in that Bill Parcells said something to me like, wow, we're really going to have to pull something off here now. We got this guy Marshall coming in here, and he's so goddamn big, we might have to weigh him on the damn New Jersey truck stop. And, I took it to a joke at the beginning, but I took offense to it in the end because he really wanted to use it as motivation to try to whip this young guy into shape and see if he can mold himself a player that he felt was a legitimate first-round draft pick and a guy they should have spent the money on.
Now, before the Super Bowls came, of course, in 1986 and 1990, that first season, Giants were 3-12, and Parcells struggled that year. Obviously, you mentioned that he lost his parents, but it was a rough year for that team.
Well, he had to learn how to be a head coach and manage personalities, and the biggest personality, of course, would be Lawrence Taylor. Manage egos because we had a situation with guys battling to see who's going to end up being quarterback. Who's going to end up being the starting running back between Butch Wolfolk and Joe Morris, whether or not he's going to keep a fullback by the name of Rob Carpenter or not, or bring in a fullback that could pretty much help us win and win immediately, which he eventually did in Maurice Carthen. And he really had to sew up his defense. He had to get big bodies that could play and that could run and that could hit. So he drafted myself and Kennard in the first 2 rounds in '83. Banks and Gary Reason in the first 3 rounds in '84, and he just kept drafting defense. He cut 20 players from '83 to '85, and he added 22 new players. That of the 22 new players, 12 of them became starters between '83 and '86, and I think that's the reason why we were so successful early on.
And, of course, the 1986 Super Bowl MVP was Phil Simms. And there was a lot of question back then if Phil Simms had the durability and really had the skills or the talents to be a starting quarterback. Take us back to '83 about the questions as far as Phil Simms not being still healthy. Scott Byrne, of course, was the other quarterback in camp at that time. So it really wasn't a guarantee that Parcells was going to be able to turn the team around.
Well, I think the biggest thing was that, again, and you're right, folks didn't know if Phil was durable enough to play. I mean, 2 previous seasons he had been hurt early in the season and pretty much out for the year. I mean, 80 he was out for the year, 81 he was out for the year. 82 he came back and played a little bit, but they also played other quarterbacks. And, back in the day under Ray Perkins, they go to camp with 90 guys and they leave camp with 48 guys and 45 guys in injured reserve. And I just the kind of way that the Giants were run back in the day. But Simms was able to overcome all that, overcome all the question marks, overcome all the negativity, and the rise from the doldrum quarterback from Morehead State to Super Bowl MVP was quite a ride.
And then in 1984, you guys go 9-7. You turn things around, and really the formation of that defense, the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, started to form there. You go 9-7. You go out to L.A. You beat Eric Dickerson and the Rams 16-13, and then you go out to San Francisco and lose to the 49ers 21-10. And that kind of game kind of set the seed of your future rivalries with the San Francisco 49ers during the season and the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it set the tone for rivalries on both teams on the West Coast, the Rams and the 49ers. You know, the Ram game was sort of the arrival of Leonard Marshall, to be honest with you, because I had a chance to make a pretty big football play in the course of the game at the last play of the game by tackling Dwayne Crutchfield in the backfield and helping us win that game against the Rams with no time left on the clock. And then we go into San Francisco and we lose. I think it was 21-10 against San Francisco. But that game taught us we could play with those guys. That game taught us that they weren't that much better than us. And that if we continue to work hard and continue to grow as a football team, that we just might fare pretty well against them.
And a lot of teams that give you a chance going out to L.A. because you're going against a great running back in Eric Dickerson at the time. How'd you guys stop him?
I think we banded together as players and said that, you know, not too many teams that get 100 yards against our defense. We were real stingy on defense. And we prided ourselves on not letting running backs get 100 yards against us. And I think on that particular day and that particular time, we wanted to make sure that it was apparent that we weren't going to be just pushed around and this, and that. So.
And you went out to San Francisco the following week to take on the 49ers, who were 15-1 that year. And you guys played a respectable game, lost 21-10, like you said earlier. But there was a big play in that game, and I remember talking to Carl Banks about it, where Joe Montana was kind of going out of bounds, and Harry Carson led up, and then he cut back inside and ran for 50 yards. And Carl said Joe was a marked man after that game in the games to come.
Yes, he was a marked man. I mean, we had to do something to dispel the myth that, Montana would just come in and beat us at will. Then teams started to call us the Montana Killers, and I guess we kind of took a liking to it because anytime we came up against them after 85, it was kind of like we had his number.
Okay, the 1985, you guys go 10-6. And then you go in San Francisco. This time has to come to New York, and you beat up the 49ers pretty good. Beat them 17-3 at the New Meadowlands, the first playoff win at home for the New York Giants.
Yes, and it was a game where we knew that we in order for us to get to where we really wanted to go, they were one of the teams that we had to beat and get beyond, and not looking past the 49ers and to the Bears, we knew we had to deal with them. And we wanted to make sure that when the Bears saw the film of us playing the 49ers, they saw a team that was scrappy and that was willing to compete and play as hard as it possibly could. Now, the day we go out and play the Bears, they run the football and they attack Lawrence Taylor on the edge the entire ball game. They can't get the ball to run inside. They got to run the ball outside. And they threw the ball well on the outside and down the middle, and they didn't give our offense an inch to breathe. I mean, we barely crossed the 40-yard line against them on offense. So, if anything, we learned a lot on both sides of the ball, but in particular on offense.
Talking to a lot of former Giants, Maurice Carthon, like you said, you learned a lot, and you've realized, even though you guys were a real physical team, one of the best defenses in the NFL, you needed to pick up a notch against that Bears defense, and the Bears defense kind of taught you guys something as well.
Absolutely, and I think that what the Bears defense taught us was that we had to be a little bit more stingy ourselves if we're going to win a championship. Offense wins games, but defense wins championships. And the main thing that we had to pride ourselves on is being real stingy, being real greedy, and instead of waiting for somebody to give us something, just go out and take it, and then damn to take it back.